It was July 7, 2012. When Olivia Hart, a 29-year-old wildlife photographer and avid solo hiker from Portland, Oregon, loaded up her Jeep and headed east toward the Sawtooth Mountains in Idaho. Known for her independence and deep connection with nature, Olivia had spent years exploring remote trails across the Pacific Northwest. She was no amateur. Her gear was always meticulously packed, and she followed every safety protocol to the letter. This trip was meant to be a week-long solo trek through one of the most isolated parts of the mountain range. Her goal was to photograph a rare species of owl reported in the region. She told her sister Emily she'd be back by the 14th. She never returned. The first signs of trouble began on the 9th, when Olivia failed to check in with a ranger station located near Trailhead 17. Normally, she'd stop in to sign the registry, and occasionally radio in quick updates, especially when venturing off marked paths. When 3 full days passed with no contact and her Jeep still parked near the trailhead, concern escalated into panic. Emily immediately called the local sheriff's department, who launched an official search and rescue operation. At first, optimism ran high. Weather conditions were stable, and with Olivia's experience, many believed she may have simply been delayed or injured somewhere nearby. Within 24 hours, more than 60 people joined the search. Drones, K9 units, and aerial surveillance were deployed to comb the 25-mile radius surrounding her planned route. They located her first checkpoint campsite neatly packed, untouched. Her tent was still pitched. A half-eaten energy bar lay on a log, next to her hiking boots. Oddly, her backpack was missing, along with her phone and camera. The area showed no signs of a struggle. It was as if she had stepped out for a quick errand and never came back. There were no footprints leading away from the site, only her original tracks leading to the spot. That detail unsettled everyone. As days turned into weeks, the operation expanded. Helicopters flew grid patterns over steep cliffs and deep ravines. Divers were brought in to scan lakes and creeks. Nothing, even more bizarre, not a single piece of her gear was ever found. No torn clothing, no survival equipment, not even discarded trash. Veteran rangers admitted they'd never seen such a clean disappearance. People leave traces, one said, even when they don't mean to. She left nothing. Volunteers began to whisper rumors of the cursed trail and the woman the mountain took, but the Hart family refused to give up hope. By the end of August 2012, the official search was called off. Olivia Hart was now considered a missing person, presumed dead by some, but not by her sister. Emily kept returning to the trailhead every month, leaving notes, maps, and photos on the windshield of Olivia's Jeep, still impounded and untouched since day one. She believed Olivia had left clues. She believed something or someone had taken her sister, and she was determined to find out who or what. A few weeks after the official search was called off, Emily Hart, Olivia's younger sister, revisited her Jeep, which had been towed and stored at the county impound lot. She'd been avoiding it, afraid of what she might find inside. The vehicle remained exactly as Olivia had left it, organized, clean, purposeful. Folded trail maps were tucked into the side compartment. Her emergency cache and spare gear were untouched. But inside the glove box, Emily found something she hadn't known existed: a small, black leather-bound notebook that Olivia always carried on hikes but rarely talked about. It was her private hiking journal. The journal wasn't just a log of trails or notes about wildlife. It read like a stream of consciousness, observations, thoughts, feelings. The first few pages were standard entries, details of the trail, weather updates, wildlife sightings. But around the 4th day of her hike, the tone shifted. The writing grew messier, as if it had been scribbled quickly, perhaps in a moment of stress. One particular entry stood out. "I saw someone watching me from the ridge today. No trail nearby. No gear. Just standing." Emily's blood ran cold as she read those words. The sentence was underlined twice. Below it, Olivia had drawn a crude sketch of a figure standing beneath a jagged peak. No face. No details. Just a shadowy outline. The entry raised far more questions than it answered. Had someone been stalking her sister? Why hadn't Olivia turned back immediately? More disturbingly, why hadn't she radioed it in or mentioned it to anyone? Emily showed the journal to investigators, who brushed it off as likely paranoia hallucination brought on by fatigue or dehydration. One officer casually mentioned, "Solo hikers sometimes spook themselves. It happens." But Emily refused to believe that. Olivia was mentally sharp, calm under pressure, and deeply intuitive. If she had written that someone was watching her, it meant she truly felt threatened. Emily returned home with the journal, reading it over and over in search of more clues. That night, she noticed something strange on the back cover of the notebook. Faintly etched into the leather like it had been scratched by a knife, were 3 initials: JRE. She didn't recognize them, and neither did the police. They ran the initials against known offenders in the area, but nothing matched. Olivia had never mentioned anyone by that name in her calls or messages. Was it a person? A warning? A code? That small detail haunted Emily for months. But there was one more one that she hadn't seen the first time, written sideways. In the margin next to the mysterious entry was a chilling phrase, almost like a whisper on the page. He doesn't blink. That was all. No explanation, no context. Just those 3 words, terrifying in their simplicity. It was the last legible thing Olivia ever wrote. After that, the entries stopped completely. In the years following Olivia Hart's disappearance, the trail where she vanished became infamous among locals. Hikers who once favored the route for its solitude and natural beauty began avoiding it altogether. It earned a new nickname whispered around campfires and online forums: Ghost Ridge. The authorities had officially closed the case by 2015, but whispers of strange happenings continued. It started small campers reporting the feeling of being watched, supplies going missing from campsites, and the faint sound of footsteps circling. Tense at night, many brushed it off as paranoia or wildlife. But then came the sightings. The first credible report came from a couple hiking in early spring 2013, nearly a year after Olivia disappeared. They were descending a narrow switchback trail near the lake when the woman froze, pointing to the ridge across the valley. Standing still among the trees was a lone figure, a woman, soaked from head to toe, with tangled blonde hair and a red jacket. She didn't wave, didn't call out, just stood and stared. The couple shouted to her, thinking she was injured, but the figure vanished behind a boulder in a blink. When they reached the spot minutes later, it was empty, no footprints, no sign anyone had been there. 2 years later, in 2015, a seasoned backpacker named Raul Delgado shared his own terrifying encounter in an online hiking forum. He'd been camping for 2 nights near the base of the same trail Olivia had planned to complete. Just after midnight, he woke to the sound of water splashing nearby. Thinking an animal had wandered close to the lake, he peeked out of his tent and saw a woman, waist-deep in the water, facing away from him. She was wearing what looked like a torn red jacket, the same description that matched Olivia's final outfit. Raoul tried calling out, but she didn't react. Instead, she slowly turned her head, just enough for him to see her face was pale, and her eyes were wide open, unblinking. She then simply dropped beneath the surface. Divers searched that lake the next day and found nothing. By 2016, park rangers began receiving more frequent reports, usually dismissed as hallucinations or attention-seeking stories. But every account was disturbingly consistent: a silent woman in red, soaking wet, appearing briefly near the ridgelines or lakes, then disappearing without a trace. Some described her as barefoot, others said her face looked off like she was in shock or worse, not quite alive. But the most chilling detail: every person who saw her said she never made a sound. No footsteps. No breathing, just stillness. One ranger, who had been skeptical of the stories, finally came forward in private. He admitted that in early autumn of 2016, he too had seen something while on patrol alone. He'd stopped to rest near a stream when he noticed a figure behind a cluster of trees, just standing. When he raised his binoculars, he saw her clearly. She was real, he whispered in a recorded interview, but she didn't blink, and when I lowered my binoculars, she was gone. I've never gone back since. The stories continued, but the pattern was clear. Someone or something was still out there, watching. In early March of 2017, news quietly broke in the local community that Ranger Thomas Blake, a retired park ranger who had helped lead the original search for Olivia Hart back in 2012, had passed away at the age of 68. He had suffered a sudden heart attack while chopping wood outside his remote cabin near the edge of the Sawtooth Wilderness. Known to be a private and no-nonsense man, Blake had spent over 30 years patrolling the mountain trails and was widely respected, though some whispered that he had become increasingly reclusive in his final years. After Olivia's disappearance, he'd abruptly requested early retirement and cut off most contact with the department. Following his death, his nephew, Jackson Blake, traveled from Boise to settle the estate and clean out the old cabin. Among the stacks of ranger logs, hunting gear, and dusty wilderness maps, Jackson discovered a wooden lockbox at the bottom of a storage trunk. Inside, he found a sealed envelope labeled in fading black ink, to be delivered to the Hart family, only if I'm gone. It was unsigned. The envelope was brittle, sealed tightly with wax, and contained only a single sheet of paper. But what was written on that sheet would shake Emily Harton the investigation out of silence once more. The note, written in shaky handwriting, wasn't a confession. It wasn't even a full explanation. Instead, it was a cryptic message, paired with a hand-drawn map, marked with an unfamiliar trail that branched off Olivia's intended route and led into an area that hadn't been officially charted. Next to the map were just a few chilling words. I didn't tell the others. I found something I shouldn't have. Beneath that sentence was a second, hastily scribbled line. Seemingly added later, there's a reason that part of the forest stays quiet. Don't go alone. The area marked on the map had never been included in the original search radius. It was off-grid, dangerous, and known for unstable terrain. When Emily turned the map over, she found one more disturbing clue. Written along the edge in the same hand, barely legible, was what looked like a date. August 14, 2012, the day after Olivia was officially declared missing. That raised a chilling possibility. Had Blake seen something out there after the search was called off, and kept it secret? If so, why? Was it guilt? Fear? Something worse? Emily handed the map and letter over to the police, but the case had long gone cold. No one wanted to reopen old wounds. But Emily wasn't done. She made copies of the map, hired a private search team, and insisted they follow the trail Blake had drawn deep into a part of the woods that had remained untouched for years. What they found there would mark the beginning of a horrifying new chapter. In August of 2018, 6 years and 1 month after Olivia Hart vanished, Emily and her small team of privately funded searchers reached the remote spot marked on Ranger Blake's hand-drawn map. It was far off the main trails, deep in a wooded ravine surrounded by jagged cliffs and an eerie, unnatural stillness. No animals, no birds, just silence. They came upon a small, unnamed alpine lake tucked between the rocks, a place that didn't appear on any modern topographical maps. The water was black, still, and freezing cold. The team immediately noticed something strange. The lake bed near the southern edge had an unusual indent in the silt, as if something had recently shifted beneath the surface. Using basic sonar equipment and waterproof flashlights, the divers began a slow search of the lake. Hours passed with nothing to show but mud, roots, and scattered debris. But just before dusk, one of the divers surfaced in a panic, gasping and clutching what looked like torn fabric. When he caught his breath, he told Emily, "There's something down there, a sleeping bag. It's not empty." Moments later, the team retrieved the waterlogged Itoma, dark blue sleeping bag, bound in fishing line and weighed down with heavy stones, intentionally concealed. Inside were fragments of what had once been supplies. And something far more disturbing. Tucked near the foot of the bag was a shredded notebook, half dissolved by time and moisture. Some of the pages were blank, others smeared into a lead, but one page stood out. It bore Olivia's handwriting. Faint, shaking, but unmistakable. Only one line could be clearly read. "Don't trust his voice. It sounds like mine." There was also a small lock of blonde hair, secured with a rubber band, and the cracked remains of what had once been a camera or handheld recorder. The bag also contained a broken compass, oddly pointing south when tested. Everything was preserved, and immediately turned over to authorities. DNA testing confirmed the hair belonged to Olivia Hart. It was the first physical proof in 6 years that she had been in that area. Yet, the investigators were baffled. Why was the sleeping bag submerged and hidden? Why hadn't her body been inside, if this was where she had died? Who had tied it down? Was it Olivia trying to hide something? Or someone else trying to ensure it would never be found? More unsettling was the discovery that the fishing line used to sink the bag matched a brand sold only in one small supply store over 100 miles away, a store that had gone out of business in 2013. The lead went nowhere. The discovery raised more questions than answers. Why was Olivia's final note warning about a voice that mimicked hers? Had she encountered someone or something out there that could manipulate sound or speech? The idea seemed insane, yet the evidence didn't lie. Emily became convinced that Olivia had tried to leave behind one final message, a breadcrumb of warning before she disappeared entirely. Law enforcement issued a public statement acknowledging the discovery, but did not reopen the case. They called it a tragic end to a mysterious disappearance. But Emily disagreed. In her eyes, it wasn't the end, it was the beginning of something far more chilling. Just weeks after the discovery of Olivia's sleeping bag in the lake, a strange tip came in from a man named Howard Kellerman, the elderly owner of a roadside general store near the base of the Sawtooth Mountains. The store had been a common stop for hikers and campers between 2005 and 2014. Before shutting down due to lack of business, Howard had been watching the local news when he saw Olivia's name mentioned again and realized something. Back in 2012, 2 days before her disappearance, she had stopped by his store. She bought trail mix, batteries, a fire starter kit, and, more interestingly, she wasn't alone. Howard had kept the store's security system intact long after closing out of habit, or maybe paranoia. In his dusty back office, he had stacks of old tapes and drives, never reviewed or overwritten. When investigators visited his property, he handed over a drive labeled July 5 to 8, 2012. The footage was grainy, but usable, and what they found on it sent chills through the room. At exactly 3:42 p.m. on July 7, the day Olivia had told her sister she'd be heading into the woods, the camera captured her walking into the store, calm and focused. But what no one had ever known before was that a man walked in just 34 seconds after her. He was tall, wearing a hooded jacket, hiking boots, and a black baseball cap pulled low. His face was never fully visible. He didn't interact with Olivia, didn't approach her, but he kept a distance of about 20 feet, appearing to browse casually. When Olivia left the store, the man waited exactly 2 minutes, then followed her out. No license plate was visible on the footage. No clear look at his car. But his behavior was unmistakably deliberate. Investigators tried running the image through missing persons, criminal databases, even local employment records, but the man didn't exist on paper. No one matching his description had ever been reported in the area at the time. Emily was devastated and furious. For years, everyone had assumed Olivia had gone into the forest alone. This changed everything. It proved there had been a second person, someone with a possible connection to her disappearance. And yet, there was nothing actionable. No name, no witnesses, and no forensic evidence linking the man to any crime. Still, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that the man wasn't just following Olivia. He was tracking her. His body language, his timing, it was too perfect, too practiced. She began to wonder if Olivia had encountered him before that day, or if he had been watching her long before she even arrived. As Emily studied the footage over and over, something else began to trouble her. At the exact moment Olivia walked past the security camera outside the store, her head turned slightly as if she felt something behind her, a sense, a presence. Her expression changed for a brief second, nervous, then composed. She kept walking. That subtle moment, barely a few frames, haunted Emily more than anything else. Had her sister known she was being followed all along? If so, why hadn't she told anyone? Why keep it to herself? Unless she didn't think she was being followed by a stranger but by someone, or something, that couldn't be explained. Months after the footage of the mysterious man surfaced, a data recovery specialist working with Emily's private team managed to restore fragments from the damaged memory card found in Olivia's submerged sleeping bag. The SD card, corroded by 6 years of water exposure, had been assumed beyond repair, but a new forensic technique allowed for partial extraction. Most of the files were corrupted beyond recognition, static, pixelated images, or random audio blips. But one file, labeled simply rec_07, survived, an audio-only recording that lasted just over a minute. What it captured would become the most disturbing piece of evidence in the entire case. The clip begins with wind, harsh, dry wind, pushing through the trees. Then Olivia's voice comes through, quiet, shaky, almost whispering, "If you find this, I'm probably gone." Her breathing is labored, as if she's crouching or hiding. The sound of twigs cracking can be heard in the distance, far, but approaching. Then she says something that froze everyone who listened to it. "He sounds like me. Don't believe what he says." The line was followed by a long silence. Her voice had a strange urgency, like someone trying to explain something impossible but knowing time was running out. Then the rustling grows louder. Water splashes once, then again. Olivia's breathing becomes panicked. Suddenly, another sound emerges on the recording, a second voice. Male, at first, .com. But within seconds, it shifts, distorts, then, horrifyingly, it mimics Olivia's exact tone. The words aren't clear, as if something or someone is trying to copy her voice, but getting it wrong. The cadence is off. like a recording played backward, then forward again. Olivia gasps. There's a faint scuffle, possibly the phone or camera falling. The final seconds are nearly inaudible. Just water, breathing. Then, in a whisper that barely registers above the static, Olivia says, "It's not a man." The file ends. Experts couldn't explain the voice distortion. There were no digital glitches or artificial manipulation. The way they said, looked biological but wrong. That was the phrase used in the report. Investigators dismissed it publicly as poor audio quality, but those who heard it firsthand, Ollie, the divers, even the technician, ever slept soundly again. For Emily, it confirmed what she had feared for years. Her sister hadn't just vanished. She had been hunted, and whatever had hunted her may still be out there, unseen in the trees, waiting, or watching. Following the voice recording leak, online theorists and paranormal forums exploded with speculation. Some claimed Olivia had fallen victim to a deranged hermit capable of mimicry. Others believed she had stumbled into something ancient and unnatural in the forest, something that could imitate voices, even memories. There were stories of similar phenomena from other missing persons cases in remote regions, cases long dismissed or buried. Now, with Olivia's final whisper echoing across the internet, one thing was clear: her story wasn't over. It had only just started to unravel. To this day, Olivia Hart's body has never been found. Her sleeping bag lies in an evidence room, her final words encrypted in a corrupted audio file, and the man seen following her remains, a faceless phantom never identified, never traced. The trail she walked is still there, silent and overgrown, avoided by most and whispered about by few. Hikers speak of strange echoes in those woods, of voices calling their names in the dark, sounding like loved ones long gone. Some believe Olivia died, lost and alone. Others think she uncovered something ancient, something that still lurks in the shadows of those remote peaks, waiting for the next curious soul to wander too far. But those who followed her trail know better. This wasn't just a disappearance, it was a warning, because sometimes, the forest doesn't just keep secrets, it becomes them.
If you liked this video, don't forget to hit that like button, share it with your friends, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. Most importantly, subscribe and hit the bell icon so the next secret finds you first.